Restorative Longevity podcast, where we share how to increase your quality of life while also increasing your longevity. Yes, you heard that right. We refuse to believe that as we get older, our quality of life naturally declines. And that's exactly what you're going to hear on this podcast. How to defy the odds with simple, effective strategies that anyone can implement into their daily routine. From holistic health practices to time-tested wisdom, we're here to help you thrive, not just survive. Now let's welcome our host, Jimmy Yen, also known as the AcuSensei. Jimmy is a licensed acupuncturist, herbalist, nutritionist, and restorative longevity expert dedicated to guiding you on your journey to vibrant health and lasting wellness.
This is a continuation topic in regards to what your brain actually needs and what our body actually needs in regards to fat, right? The one fat your brain needs. And so there's possible many types of research saying we need all these different types of fat, but in actuality, we only need this one type of fat, right? And so in alignment with the way that I do these podcasts, so the one fat your brain actually needs, right? What's the answer? Here's the point of the podcast. It is omega-3s. Omega-3s are the one fat that's crucial for your brain health. Actually, it's crucial for your whole body's health, but we're specifically focusing on your brain because everybody wants to be smarter, right? Everybody wants to retain their memory, maybe even have better memory. Nobody wants to lose their memory. Nobody wants to lose their mind, right? Nobody wants to become dumber every day, right? So this is the one fat you actually need to help you become smarter and retain your memory. It is omega-3s. Right. So let's do a recap. Before I continue, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button and make sure you get your friends and family to subscribe. Because as you probably, if you followed me for a while, you know, I typically, say the things that are unconventional, opposite of the norm, not intentionally, just to show that what is out in culture, what is out in, I would say, society, what the information that is being promoted in society, right? A lot of it is not for the benefit of us human beings. It's a benefit for someone else in a sense in their pocketbooks. But that's the reason why a lot of times, it's not intentionally. I say the things that are opposite of what society teaches us. Even the scientific literature, the medical association, I say the opposite of those things because I am not bought by any of those companies, right? So omega-3s. These are the one things you need, right? So hit the subscribe button. If you have a question, I've got the live chat open. So you can type in your questions in the live chat. And as long as YouTube will show it to me, I will answer it, right? So let's go to review a little. What are omega-3s? So why omega-3s in the first place? So in the previous podcast, I mentioned there are two different types of fats, or you may hear the words fatty acids, right? The fats, it's the same thing, fatty acids. There's two main categories. There's saturated versus there's unsaturated. You probably heard of those, right? Now let's review just very briefly. I'm not going to go into the detail because you don't need to know the detail. It's not going to change the solution, right? I know some practitioners are very gung-ho and saying all the scientific words. And a lot of times, most people don't understand. At least in our clinic, people don't understand those scientific terms, right? They just want to know, hey, what's going to help me regain my memory? What's going to help me decrease my joint pain? What's going to help me with my autoimmune condition? And that's the way that I like to communicate. So saturated fats versus unsaturated fats. The technical term, I will say it, but you don't really need to know this. You don't need to memorize it, right? The technical term for saturated fats, or the technical definition is, they are completely covered with hydrogens, right? That's saturated. It's completely covered with fatty acids have these tail, and they're completely covered with hydrogens. Saturated fats are also known as the unhealthy fats. They are the storage fats. So if you want to get fatter, you want to get slower, you want to get lazier, you want to have more low energy, then you just eat more of these saturated fats. right? Cheese, butter, and so forth, bacon. These are all saturated fats, terrible for your body. They will slow you down. And so we don't actually need, the vast majority of saturated fats are found in the brain. Vast majority of saturated fats found in the brain is actually produced inside the brain alone. So your brain don't need more help on this, right? It is not absorbed through our diet. Saturated fats are not absorbed through our diet. Your brain makes them. You don't need to eat them. As much as people will tell you the carnivore diet, keto diet, that you need these things, you don't. Your brain makes them, right? So where am I getting this information? I'm getting this information from, current people who are helping prevent Alzheimer's, scientists who are helping. I don't like the word, I'm trying to stay away from the word research, because research can be manipulated, and it's hard for the public to know which research is true. I know everybody keeps on arguing about research, and that's why I don't want to use a word research, because there's so many arguments. You can always find a contradicting research to what you believe. You can always find it. Right. So that's why I want to stay away from the word research. So I like to use reality-based research or reality-based evidence. Reality-based evidence is scientists that are actually helping people prevent Alzheimer's, right? Not treat it. Treating is already too late. It's preventing, right? And so that's where I'm getting this information from. So unsaturated fats their tails are partially covered with hydrogen, right? Why are these important? These are, especially the polyunsaturated fats, called PUFAs, P-U-F-A, polyunsaturated fat. Do you need to remember this name? No, you don't. You just need to know that there are some fats that your brain produces, and those are called non-essential fats. Your brain already produces them. You don't need to input them. You don't need to eat them anymore. And plus, your brain can't use it. Your brain can't use those saturated fats that you eat, right? So mostly from animal products. What your brain needs is essential fats. These are the PUFAs, polyunsaturated fats, PUFAs. These your brain can't make, and so they will gobble them up every time you eat them. And how do you get them? You eat them, right? These essential fats, you eat them. So that's what we're going to go into. What are these essential fats? These PUFAs, polyunsaturated fats. They are the family we've probably heard of, the omegas, right? The omegas. These are the essential fats that you need for your brain. So there's two main categories. Some have found three, but we're gonna spend time on the main two categories of essential fats. So these are the fats. When I say the one fat your brain needs, that's what I'm talking about. Omegas, specifically omega-3s. Okay, but within the omega category, there are two main categories that we've heard of, omega-3 and omega-6. There's a difference between. They're actually completely opposite, right? Omega-3 and omega-6. We all have heard omega-3s are beneficial for us, and that is 100% true, right? Some of y'all may not have heard of omega-6s. So we're going to dive in a little deeper into the difference. So let's start with omega-6. Omega-6, something that most people, probably not many people have heard of, compared to omega-3s. Omega-6 are called pro-inflammatory fats. What is pro-inflammatory? It means it stimulates, it activates inflammation. So if you want to get more inflamed, you eat more of omega-6s, okay? You want more inflammation in your body, you want to be all more swollen, you want to be more fat, you want to be dumber, you want to be slower, you want to be lazier, eat more omega-6s, right? So they are pro-inflammatory. So what does that mean? They encourage our body and our brain, they encourage our whole body to start an inflammatory response, right? Now this is usually when it's in response to a wound or an infection. And I'm not saying you don't need omega-6, right? I'm doing, these drastic statements because I'm trying to get your attention. You do need omega-6 because you do need inflammation. Inflammation is not a bad thing, right? It's a good and a bad thing. You need inflammation. It's your way that your body protects itself from infections, wounds. You need inflammation. right? And omega-6 helps the immune system mount a healing response, which is acute inflammation, right? Acute inflammation. It means you've activated your immune response. You want your immune system to be activated when you have a foreign enemy, like an infection, virus, bacteria, right? That's how our immune system uses inflammation to protect from foreign invaders and to protect from danger. Okay, so that's omega-6. So what is omega-3s? We've all heard, many people have heard of omega-3s. Omega-3s are anti-inflammatory. So omega-6 are pro-inflammatory. They stimulate inflammation. Omega-3s decrease inflammation. Okay, they turn down the immune response when the danger is no longer present. So when you have an acute injury, you want omega-6s activated. You want omega-6 to activate your immune system to stimulate the immune system, to stimulate the inflammatory response. Now, omega-6-3s, now once your body has healed the problem, you have an infection, it's killed the infection, it's trapped the infection, you have an injury, it's mended the tendons, the muscles, the bones, it's the nerves, it's mended, it's healed it. Now you want your inflammatory response to go down. That's where omega-3s come in. Your body uses omega-3s to activate the anti-inflammatory by reducing. So if you remember in my previous podcast, I'll talk about, I drew an ankle when it inflames and the body sends troops. So omega-6 causes those troops to go to your ankle. Now, when the job is done, omega-3s, it's like the executive branch, tells the troops to go back home, right? That's the omega-3s, all right? So it's the balance of these two PUFAs, polyunsaturated fatty acids, omegas. It's the balance between these two that allows our immune system to be healthy and our brains to be smart, our memories to be intact, okay? So what does the latest group of scientists that are focused on preventing cognitive memory problems, preventing Alzheimer's, what do they say? What do they say is the best balance? It's a 2-to-1. So you might want to write this down. It's a 2-to-1 ratio. 2 refers to omega-6. 3 refers to omega-3s. 1 refers 2-to-1. So 2-to-1, 2-to-1 ratio. Omega-6 is 2, omega-3 is 1, right? So you need double the amount of omega-6s compared to omega-3s, right? That's for a normal balance. Now, if you already have chronic inflammation, then that balance doesn't apply to you. I would actually say I would shift it, right? I would shift it 2-to-1 to omega-3s. But I'm talking about a normal. So let me repeat so you don't get confused. A normal, healthy being, you do not have chronic inflammation, which is rare here in the US. Most people have chronic inflammation. But in the situation that you do not have chronic inflammation, right? You don't have an autoimmune disease, you don't have cholesterol problems, you don't have cardiovascular problems, you don't have neurological problems, you don't have digestive problems, you don't have any problems, right? Then the normal ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 is this. You need twice as much omega-6 compared to omega-3s. But what's the reality? 90% of the Americans, or probably even higher, have chronic inflammatory. So this really doesn't apply to anybody, right? If you are and some people may say, oh, but I work out all the time. If you work out all the time, you're inflamed all the time. You are inflamed all the time, right? So you can work out. Those marathon runners, those CrossFit people, they're pumping weights, they're tearing muscle all the time. They're inflamed every day. So just because they look healthy does not mean they're healthy. They are just as bad as someone who has rheumatoid arthritis. They just don't feel it. Okay. So that is the situation. So really, the ideal situation is 2-to-1 omega-6. Omega-6 is double omega-3s. What's happening in the US? And this is probably happening in many countries all around the world. Americans consume 20 to 30 times more omega-6. 20 to 30, it should only be double, but Americans are consuming 20 to 30 times more omega-6 than omega-3s. That's why I'm saying, I'm not even talking about, I haven't even added the food component to it. When you add to the food component to it, how Americans eat, I would say probably close to 100% of Americans are inflamed, chronically inflamed, right? Because Americans are eating 20 to 30 times more omega-6s than the omega-3s. So they are constantly, not only are they doing the wrong exercise to inflame their body, or no exercise, which also inflames their body, but now they're eating 20 to 30 times more foods that will inflame their body. And then they go do CrossFit and then inflame it even more, right? They go run a marathon, they inflame it even more. So everything we do here in the US is inflammatory. I would say it's safe to say that probably 100%, close to 100% of Americans are chronically inflamed. That's why, even though we spend the most on healthcare, but we're, in regards to longevity, we're like number 50 in the developed countries. We should be number 1. We have the most resources. We spend the most money on taking care of our health, but yet we are not the healthiest. And it's because we do these things. This is daily things. That's why, some of y'all may be thinking, man, I knew this. This is so easy, right? Well, if it was so easy, why are you inflamed? If you're taking a medication, you are inflamed. If you are taking medication, you are not healthy. Now, I'm not telling you to not take your medication. That's not what I'm saying. I have patients that come to our clinic and they would say, overall, besides my poor vision, I'm really healthy, but they're taking 5 medications. No, you're not healthy. If you have to depend upon a medication to sustain certain functions in your body, you are not healthy. A healthy individual does not need any medication, does not need any pill. And this is not my definition. This is based on looking at the blue zones. The blue zones are areas around the world, and there's one in the US, in California, right? Loma Linda, California. These blue zone areas, they don't take medication. They don't take supplements. They don't go CrossFit. They don't go to a gym. They're the most healthiest people in the world. They're living above 100 years old, and they have a higher quality of life than a 50-year-old. Who's taking medication, who's doing the marathons, who's doing the gym. Now, I'm not saying don't go to the gym. I go to the gym, right? There's ways of doing the gym without hurting yourself, without increasing the inflammation, right? And we can go into that if y'all are interested in that, because working out is important, super important. I would say movement, not working out. Movement is super important. Right? But if you do it the wrong way, you're actually causing more inflammation, which is causing degenerative diseases, degenerative joint disease. You're causing yourself to get osteoarthritis. Maybe not rheumatoid, which is the autoimmune condition. You're causing yourself to get osteoarthritis by just wear and tear. Just look at your car. Our car, if you don't take care of your car, just through wear and tear, it starts to decline. Why would you think our body is anything different? Yes, our bodies have the ability to regenerate, but you keep on damaging it. Why would it regenerate if you keep on damaging it, right? So, excess inflammation. Actually, I skipped one of my notes. So you're saying, some people are saying, but the research says. Let me tell you what the research says. The U.S. Food and Nutrition Board, these are the government organizations who are supposed to give us healthy recommendations, okay? They established called a DRI, Dietary Reference Intake. So the U.S. Food and Nutrition Board established DRI, Dietary Reference Intake. It's to tell you how to be healthy. So what are they telling you how to be healthy? For a adult male, they are saying you should take 1.6 grams of omega-3s every day and 14 to 17 grams of omega-6s every day. This is way beyond the 2-to-1 ratio. It's almost like a 14-to-1 ratio. The The government, U.S. Food and Nutrition Board, are saying to be healthy, you need to inflame yourself even more. Because they're telling you to take 14 grams of omega-6, which is inflammatory, pro-inflammatory, and only 1.6 grams of omega-3s, which is anti-inflammatory. So the government, so when the research, that's what I'm saying, when you say research says, research is this research, not all research, this research is telling you to inflame your body. So again, the research or the data that I'm looking to is I'm looking at people, scientists, physicians, researchers who are looking to prevent these disorders, not treat them. Treat them is already too late. You're already inflamed. How do you prevent these inflammatory responses to begin with? That's the data I look for. And those are the things, it just so happens, those are the things, the blue zones, people who are living above 100 years old and super healthy and higher quality of life, right? 60, 70-year-olds having a good sex life. We've got 40 and 50-year-olds taking medication because they lost their sex drive, men and women. You say that's healthy, right? That's what I'm saying. 60, 70, 80-year-olds doing a healthy lifestyle, no pills, right? No CrossFit, no Orange Theory, no F45, none of this. 70, 80s, normal sex life. So you choose. I'm not here to convince you. I'm just here to share the news. Okay. Let me pause and just see if you have any questions. I think you got some questions. Omega-3s for Parkinson's disease and neuropathy will help with about chronic pain. Shamim, yeah, omega-3s, I'm going to get to it, but to answer your question, yes. So if you've got Parkinson's, you got neuropathy, you need to increase. Instead of doing 2 to 1, 2 omega-6s to 1 omega-3, you need to flip it. You need to do twice as many omega-3s compared to omega-6s. And Dory is watching from Guam. Well, awesome. Thank you for watching, Mindor. Perfect. So let's continue. Excess inflammation. So when you eat, so the Americans eat 20 to 30 times more omega-6s, so more inflammatory foods. The U.S. Food and Nutrition Board are telling us to eat more inflammatory foods. What happens when you do that, right? You will get atherosclerosis, arthritis, vascular disease, autoimmune diseases, tumor proliferation. Cancer grows in inflammatory acidic environments. Neurological conditions like neuropathy, Parkinson's, ALS, Alzheimer's, all of these inflammatory. This I think we can all agree upon. All of these are inflammatory diseases, inflammation diseases. Inflammation that has gotten out of hand. I think everybody from all sides will agree upon that, right? So food sources. Let's talk about food sources. So omega-6s, what are the omega-6? They are inflammatory. They increase inflammation, right? These foods naturally occur in the fats, okay, especially like animal protein, animal products, bacon, chicken fat, and even there's omega-6s in vegetables. Vegetable oils from grape seeds, canola oil, corn, peanuts, and sunflower seeds. See, I used to follow research that was based off of how to treat disorders until, really diving into the blue zones and also with helping our patients. I've had some realizations that I've had to change some of my teachings. So one of the things is grapeseed oil. I used to think grapeseed oil was great for you to cook with grapeseed oil. I even changed to grapeseed oil until I found out grapeseed oil promotes omega-3s, has omega-3s, which increases inflammation. So the more grapeseed oil I was using, the more inflammatory I was using. And so omega-6, so I'm looking at a list of omega-6s, and between grapeseed oil, sunflower oil, corn oil, soybean oil, sesame oil, peanut oil. Guess which one has the most omega-6? I was shocked. Grapeseed oil. It has 70 grams of 70 grams, 70 grams of omega-6. Actually, if you want to cook, this is something that I didn't even, I wouldn't have said this a few years ago, right? Lard, pig fat. Pig fat only has 10 grams of omega-6. That's almost even better than grapeseed oil, but just a little of it, okay? So plant sources of omega-6 have more omega-6s than the animal source, okay? Now, of course, pig fat, lard, you can't overuse that as well, right? That's saturated. That's that becomes to making the blood vessels, clogging your blood vessels, right? So what are omega-3s? There's 3 types of omega-3s. There's some of y'all may not have heard this. I'm not going to try to pronounce the words because I'm probably going to butcher them. It's not important. There are 3 types of omega-3s: ALA, EPA, DHA. We probably heard of EPA, DHA, right? And there's also ALA. So ALA comes from plant sources like flax seeds, walnuts, chia seeds, wheat germ, and sea vegetables like spirulina, right? So you need these sea vegetables. Not to get off topic, but I had a thyroid patient who, just was all messed up. Went through physicians, went through other functional medicine practitioners. Physicians gave her medications, functional practitioners gave her a bucket of supplements, and her body was just all over. It was just destroyed. Even natural supplements, right? That she could not eat simple things like spirulina, sea vegetables. Spirulina is phenomenal for you. It's omega-3s. It decreases inflammation, which helps Hashimoto's. But because she was so messed up with all the pills that she was taking, she couldn't do spirulina, at least not temporarily, right? So that was just a side note. Next, EPA, DHA. These are found in fish, specifically cold water fish. So what are the best fish? So you want to know how to increase omega-3s? Salmon, mackerel, cod. Salmon, mackerel, cod. We eat salmon and cod all the time, right? So if you have any type of inflammatory disease right now, eat more salmon, eat more cod. And guess what? In another podcast that I did, I shared the secret, the best diet, the most healthiest diet. It's the Mediterranean diet. And guess what they eat? Salmon, cod. And what do the blue zones eat? Mediterranean diet. What do they eat? Salmon, cod. Okay? So it's just like, it's just so weird. How come we don't trust the people who are actually living and actually doing and living a healthy life, living a high quality life? We don't trust what they're doing. And yet we have to wait till some scientists, some researchers go and does something in a laboratory, and then we trust it. I just don't get it. But believe what you want. DHA. Number 1 source of DHA. Black caviar. It has a higher density of brain-building DHA than any other food. 1 ounce of caviar contains 3 times more DHA than the highest quality of salmon. The highest quality of salmon. So caviar. If you like caviar, go to it. It's expensive, but it has the highest DHA for your brain. You're losing your mind, go eat some caviar, right? The last thing I'll leave you with is omega-3s is the number 1. So these people who prevent, these scientists, these researchers that are preventing Alzheimer's, they're doing research to prevent Alzheimer's. They have found the number 1 nutrient to fighting age-related cognitive decline and dementia is omega-3s. That's why I said the 1 fat your brain needs, omega-3s. That was what I said in the very beginning. Omega-3s is what you need, and that's what's going to help you do that. So we'll go into how many dosage and stuff like that, but I'll just give you an overview. Like if you're going to, if you already have a chronic degenerative neurodegenerative. It can be Parkinson's, Alzheimer's. It can be rheumatoid arthritis. It can be Hashimoto's. It can be colitis. It could be cholesterol, atherosclerosis, hypertension. Any of these are all chronic inflammatory, right? One thing you can start off with is 1,000 milligrams of omega-3s, okay? 1,000 milligrams of omega-3s 3 times a day. All right. So you want to get a good quality omega-3s. Not all omega-3s are made the same. You want to get a third-party tested. You want to get a pharmaceutical grade. That's the only supplements we carry in our clinic at Achieve Integrative Health. So you only want to get a third-party tested, high-quality supplement, pharmaceutical grade, right? The really recommendation of 1,000 milligrams of omega-3s, it doesn't cut it. That's for someone who is already healthy, who has zero inflammatory disease, right? Which is, I have not met anybody who doesn't have something. So 1,000 milligrams 3 times a day. For some patients, we actually have them taken more. Okay. Now, what do you take of DHA versus EPA? Now, if it's more of a neurological, your brain, your spine, your nerves, you want to focus higher on DHA. If you are more joint, muscle, anything non-brain, nervous system, right? Blood vessels, everything else. I'll just say everything else. If it's not your brain and your spinal cord, in your nervous system. So let me repeat: brain, nervous system, focus more on DHA. Everything else of the omega-3s. Everything else, focus on EPA. Okay? So hopefully that helps, guys. Make sure you subscribe again and get your friends to subscribe and take notes. I will dive in deeper as we are going through all the simple things that you can do to improve your health and naturally, and you can do it for yourself and your friends and your family. All right, guys, see you next week. Same time, same channel, Sundays, 8:30 Central Standard Time. See you then. All right, peace.